It's time for some magic.
Stand up! Vanguard!
Hey Cardfighters, welcome to the long-awaited second version of Golden Beast Tamer's deck profile after the set of Viles Deletor. It's been a little bit late, but that's because I've been busy with a lot of other things, and we still have one other deck profile to go over, and that is Baku's version, the second version. But today's video is going to be a little bit different than your usual deck profile, as I tend to go over the deck list, then over the different combos, strategies, plays, and then over different options you can run to make it more your personal list. But for Golden Beast Tamer, it's a little bit awkward, as seen as it's basically the same list in most sense as the previous version, as you're gonna use the same main cards, you have the same main combos, your strategy is the same, your tactics are the same. It's basically the same build, but a little bit more consistent. However, the most interesting part is that with the new support, you can build it in endless kind of ways. You can make some different aggressive strategies in the sense that your multi-attacking or your basic combos are the same, but how you are enabling it or how your execution is going to be can be a little bit different if you run different kind of cards. So what we're going to do with this deck profile is going to go quickly over my personal list and what makes it different than your usual typical list that you can see on YouTube, and I will go over that very quickly. I'm going to reference my previous first version of Golden Beast Tamer as well as my Gun Salute build that I did a couple of days ago, because some interactions and some cards are already been talked about in those lists, so this video is not longer than it needs to be. So with that said, let's jump right into this list. For this Golden Beast Tamer list, we run a total of 8 grade 3s, 12 grade 2s, 13 grade 1s, and 17 grade 0s. For this list, we of course run 4 copies of Golden Beast Tamer. It's our main boss monster and the card that allows us to do basically everything that we need to do in this deck. For the supporting grade 3s, we run a total of 3 copies of Nightmare Doll Alice. This is our main aggressive card that extends most of our combos, as we can get a easy +1 attack going off when we use this card. And to round up our grade 3 lineup, we run 1 copy of Comicality Chimera. It's a card that extends more combos thanks to purple Trapezist. It's a good beat stick, and it allows us to have some extra counter charge to enable some extra attacks when we are running low on counterblast. For grade 2 lineup, we run 3 copies of Misdirection. This is a great card for early game to fill up our soul with a excessive amount of cards, but also selectively soul charge as soon as we can soul charge them from our hand. We also run 3 copies of Jumping Jill. This is a great card that allows us to either extend our combos or reuse some boosters or some good early game aggressive plays together with Nightmare Doll Alice. We also run 3 copies of Amaranth Beast Tamer, another very good aggressive card for the early game, but it's also a great card that allows to extend our combos thanks to purple Trapezist, and then we can go into something like another Nightmare Doll Alice. We also run 2 copies of Dancing Princess of the Night Sky. We mainly use this card basically for her +3k when you call it from soul, so when we use her in combination with Nightmare Doll Alice and we have enough cards with Golden Beast Tamer, we can go from a 25k grade 3 attack to a 25k grade 2 attack. So if our opponent is hitting defensive triggers, we can circumvent that with these numbers. And to round up our grade 2 lineup, we run 1 copy of Dancing Knifedancer. It's basically the card that allows us to have some extra counter charges when we are using all of our counter blasts, and so we have something to fuel our next turn's attack with. For the grade 1s, we run 4 copies of Midnight Bunny. This is a obvious 4 of include. It's the main card that allows us not only for soul charging, but also for hit pressure and potential multi-attacking. We also run 4 copies of Purple Trapezist, once again a very obvious 4 of include, as it allows us to extend our combos thanks to cards like Comicality Chimera, Amaranth Beast Tamer, Jumping Jill, and of course Nightmare Doll Alice. We also run 3 copies of Starting Presenter. This might be a little bit of an odd choice for some of you, as most people are starting to drop this card from their list, but I personally like this card in combination with Misdirection and in some sense also Dancing Princess of the Night Sky, as it has a good early game combination aggression going on, or a good setup turn if you want to use a lot of soul charges and setting up your next turn for Golden Beast Tamer. And lastly, we run 2 copies of Brassie Bunny. This is a great early game card as it allows us to cycle through our decks if we're missing something like a Golden Beast Tamer, and late game we can still cycle through a deck but then also soul charge 2 cards, and that can maybe help us when we're sitting in a clutch situation when we need a certain card in our soul, or just extra soul blast fodder for cards like Nightmare Duel Alice or Dancing Princess. For the Great Zeros, we of course run the obvious starter, and the trigger lineup is 4 heals, 6 fronts and 6 draws, making a total of 8 Grade 3s, 12 Grade 2s, 13 Grade 1s and 17 Grade 0s. This deck has all the old combos from the previous build. We got the Jumping Jill Midnight Bunny combo, which lets us chain attacks as long as the attack keeps hitting and we have enough counterblast left. We also have the Alice combo, which lets us keep attacking and reusing our Accel circles thanks to Purple to Pieces and cards like Comicality Chimera and Jumping Jill and Amaranth Beast Tamer. If you want a more clear step-by-step process how these combos works, I highly recommend you to watch my previous Golden Beast Tamer deck profile as you get a clear explanation how all these combos work. But with the new support, we also got the addition of the starting presenter plays, which we talked about in our previous Gun Salute deck profile. Go check that video out if you're interested in a demonstration, but in short, riding Misdirection on top of starting presenter gives us a great soul setup turn and hand cycle, and riding Dancing Princess on top of starting presenter gives you insane pressure on your grade 2 turn as you can call potential full front row. Resource management is the same as before. Most of our counterblast goes towards multi-attacking thanks to units like Golden Beast Tamer, Midnight Bunny and Nightmare Duel Alice. Misdirection and Dancing Princess are skills that you won't be using as much, as when you do, you probably combine it with Dancing Knifedancer to immediately refund that counterblast. Soul's probably even more important, but we have plenty of ways to fill a soul with enough cards. But always keep track of what you have and when you want to soul blast a specific card with skills like Alice and Dancing Princess. The main strategy of this deck is widely known: multi-attack as much as possible. In the early game, you highly are likely to build up your soul with your grade 1s and Misdirection to unleash mayhem in the later stages of the game with attack numbers sometimes in the double digits. Some quick tips about this deck: make sure you can use Dancing Knifedancer each turn, especially when your opponent is denying you counterblast. That unit can give a lot of skills for free. If you combine it with a Misdirection early game, you might get that soul set up for free. Brassie Bunny is a card with 2 uses. Early game it can help you get your pieces to hand. Maybe you miss that Golden Beast Tamer as a right target or that final Purple to Pieces. And late game it's a great card for setting up your soul, be it that you have to soul charge a specific card or you just need some soul blast fodder for Alice. All the grade 2s, except for Knifedancer, are great right target. Misdirection and Dancing Princess can give you some insane early game, especially ridden on top of starting presenter. Jumping Jill can be recalled and reset the field if you follow it up with a Nightmare Duel Alice, as this is the only targetable card in a deck for Alice her skill, except herself of course. Amaranth Beast Tamer is a great card for early aggro, as you can move the front row unit into the soul when your Vanguard attacks to deny them to get a free snipe and damage deny you early game. Alright, now we get to the interesting part in this video. I personally like to play the deck with a lot of options and different strategies. That's why you see a lot of 1-offs and 2-offs in this deck, and there are probably a lot of people out there that would dislike this kind of playstyle, as most people tend to focus on one particular strategy and make that as consistent as possible. But when that strategy fails, or your opponent can counter it, you're basically fucked. That's why I choose this kind of build. However, I will explain how different builds work and why certain people tend to choose specific cards in specific amounts. First off, Golden Beast Tamer can be built in a lot of different ways, but the baseline for a consistent Golden Beast Tamer build needs to require the following cards, otherwise we would be sitting here all day. It needs to have 4 Golden Beast Tamers, obviously, at least 3 or more Nightmare Duel Alices, as it's the strongest offensive card in the deck. We need to have 3 or more Amaranth Beast Tamers to enable the Purple Trapezist chain. 1 or 2 Knifedancers to keep the counterblast flowing. At least 3, but actually you need to run it at 4 Purple Trapezist, as it's your main extender. And the same can be said about Midnight Bunny, at least 3, but it's almost a 4-off in the deck, as it's your best soul charge engine, hit pressure and potentially extra multi-attacking. A good different list is a focused Alice aggro build, which run 4-offs of all these cards cards, except for 3 Nitro Jugglers and 2 Comicality Chimeras. The focus of this particular deck is to attack with as much 25k attacks as possible. So you chain Nightmare Doll Alice into Dancing Princess for 2 25k attacks. So defense triggers won't matter as much even in a force matchup. But because they don't run Jumping Jill, they can only extend their combos thanks to Amaranth and Comicality Chimera. The downside in this build is that it runs a lot of grade 3s, and besides the 25k attacks, it won't build effective columns, and they can't reuse Midnight Bunny without Jumping Jill, and they rely on Brassie Bunny to help fix these issues. Now let's take a look at the individual cards and see why you would run them. First off, the grade 1s. Starting Presenter is a card that allows for soul build-up and for potential targeting soul charge and early game aggression. However, it is a -1 on hand for a blind unit. This is the main negative point about the card. However, if you run it besides Misdirection, it could remove the negative aspect, but it's a 2-card interaction that needs to happen when you ride into your grade 2 turn. Next, we have Brassie Bunny, basically the card that replaces Starting Presenter in most decks. It allows for deck cycling in the early game and turbo soul charging in the late game. The only downside to this card is that it won't interact with any other card like Starting Presenter, but besides that, it's a very solid consistency boost to the deck in general. First of the grade 2s, we have Misdirection and Nitro Juggler. These cards are very similar, however they function very differently. In most decks, you either see one of the two being run. You won't see Misdirection in a counterblast heavy deck, as well as if that deck doesn't run Starting Presenter, as she is a lot less good without that card. Nitro Juggler's upside is that it costs nothing, but if you see 2 triggers, you're basically royally fucked, as you need to soul charge 1 and put 1 on the bottom of the deck. With Misdirection, you can draw them both and opt to put something else into the soul. Next, we have Jumping Jill. She is a great card to reuse boosters mid-battle, as she interacts great with Nightmare Doll Alice, Purple Trapezist and Midnight Bunny. However, thanks to the 25k attack of Dancing Princess, you can make the argument that columns don't matter as long as you reuse her and Alice on your Accel circles. And lastly, we have Comicality Chimera. This is a card that allows for not only reaching high numbers like 27k, but it can extend your combos by using Purple Trapezist, as well as it can generate counter charge, so overall a really solid card to put in most decks. As you can see, this quote-unquote new Golden Beast Tamer build takes a lot from the previous versions and improves on its consistency issues that it had in the past, making this deck even more deadly, but also more unpredictable, as soon as you can build the deck any way you like and your opponent doesn't know what he can expect until it's too late. And with that, we'll conclude this updated version for Pale Moon's Golden Beast Tamer build. And basically, as I stated before in the video, the deck itself isn't really that changed much, as the interactions, combo plays and all that kind of jazz is still the same as the original versions. But the overall options that you can now use to run specific cards at a 2-off, a 3-off, a 1-off is now opened up to way more possibilities, and you can see a lot more different builds being used or utilized in the different kinds of tactic. I hope this video gives you enough inspiration in building your own version of Golden Beast Tamer. As stated before and many times during this video, there are a lot of different things you can try, and it's basically just pick up the cards, try things out, fill with it, then pick it up again, try something else, and at some point you will find a magic concoction that works perfectly for you. But that's basically everything for me today. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of this new updated Golden Beast Tamer build, or basically the support that it got in general. Do you like the build? Do you like the deck? Do you like the archetype in what it does and how it features? I personally am a great fan of it, but I also want to know what you guys think. Maybe I missed some interaction, maybe I overlooked a certain card that's also very good in the build. So let the discussion go in the comments down below. As always, I want to thank my Patreon supporters over at Patreon, Priest and John Edmondson, for supporting me doing basically this channel for you guys. You guys are awesome. And if you too want to support me on Patreon, then go to patreon.com/VanguardInsider and become a Patreon today to also get exclusive content to different videos and different information, as some of you guys have been asking me to do other deck profiles that I haven't done in the past, or another one for Viles Deletor, like an updated Mandala Lord video. I'm not gonna do that on this channel, as we're gonna wrap up Viles Deletor with the next deck profile for Murakumo Zanbaku, and that's gonna be the end of it, because otherwise we're gonna stay here for eternity. So if you're interested in that deck profile for the updated Mandala Lord, I'm gonna post a list with strategies over at Patreon for patrons only. So if you want to get access to that, then I recommend you guys to go to Patreon, as you can find more content and information over at our Patreon page. But with that said, I'm Mr. Time Leap, and I see you guys in the next one.